This is group one with Jeff, Min, Melody, Katrina, and Shihab. Our objective for this project is to develop a slice-based clustering technique that automatically segments articulated 3D models, humans or animals, into limbs, torso, and head.
For this project, we found a bunch of animal models online. We also found a human model, and we scaled them to 1 meter, and we rotated them so we can use it for this project because our method is sensitive to orientation.
All right, so our implementation takes the 3D model and it slices them across two different axes. And so that's the first part of our method. And so it looks like this. So in this case, you can see that the dog is sliced in the z-axis, and these are exaggerated, but this is what the slice looks like. And then in a different axes, it looks like this. This is in the y-axis. According to the Open3D orientation, y-axis points up. And the next thing we do is we cluster these slices. So if you look at the slices at the feet, for example, a single slice would just be these four, and we use the DB cluster to cluster these into four small sections. And then the next part, we compare the area of these clusters with the previous slice. And if they're the same, they're assigned the same label. And so going up along the leg, you can notice that most of these slices have similar area. And this is how our algorithm figures out that the leg pieces are sort of the same limb and are assigned the same label. And so we do this in two axes, and this what we do here. And then after we do that, we merge the labels, keeping the largest labels. And the result here is our algorithm, and that's really it. And so here are some results. Here's a dog, and as you can see, it was able to separate out the legs, the four legs, and the tail. Here's a pig. It was also able to separate out the legs. It didn't do too well in the tail because over here there's not enough volume for it to figure out that it was part of a different extremity. Here's a giraffe. It separated out both the tail and the legs pretty well. Here's a human. It separated out most of the torso and the arms and the legs and the head pretty well. And lastly is zebra. The next part is in our implementation. So we first loaded all these models, and then we ran them through our own implementation, but we also compared them with dbScan.
So when trying dbScan, the point cloud is downsampled using a voxel grid to reduce noise and to get it to process faster. The density-based clustering algorithm groups points that are close together and then labels those isolated points. The main parameters for this method include epsilon, which is the neighborhood radius that controls how close points have to be considered part of the same cluster, and minimum points, which is the minimum number of neighbors required to form a cluster. After that, the scan centroids of each cluster are computed, and agglomerative clustering is applied to group similar clusters into high-level structure. This steps encourage fragmented clusters that belong to the same object to be merged, and then each group is colorized so that you can see them independently. Epsilon especially, but so that radius, especially if they're dispersed evenly, makes it hard. But then having the neighborhood be too big or too small, you could go quickly from finding four legs to finding the whole body with minimal changes, so it's difficult to tune. We segmented animal and human body parts from the 3D scans and used two very distinct approaches. The more adaptable one is the dbScan with agglomerative clustering. It automatically identifies dense areas and then classifies them according to the physical proximity. And because of that, it makes it more adaptable to different shapes and positions, but can have pretty erratic results. By slicing the point cloud along an axis and clustering each slice and then merging regions based on changes in the cross-sectional area, the axial slice segmentation method is more procedural, particularly when it comes to recognizing anatomical features like limbs and torsos, which I think we felt like makes the rule-based method more reliable and incomprehensible.